Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Learner Podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Tom. We're very happy to have you here again.
Today's topic is very useful for your daily conversations.
Yes, we are going to talk about your schedule.
Talking about your schedule helps you explain your daily life clearly.
And it is very useful at school, at work, and when talking with friends.
Let's start with a simple question. What is your daily schedule?
You can begin by saying, I usually wake up at...
For example, I usually wake up at 6 a.m.
Then you can continue with your morning activities.
I brush my teeth, take a shower, and have breakfast.
You can also add more details.
For example, I have a quick breakfast, or I eat breakfast with my family.
After that, you can talk about school or work.
I go to school at 7 a.m., or I start work at 8 a.m.
You can also say how you go there.
For example, I go to school by bus, or I walk to work.
Now let's talk about your afternoon.
You can say, I have lunch at 12 p.m.
Or, I take a short break in the afternoon.
You can also add more activities.
For example, I continue my classes or I have meetings at work.
Now let's talk about your evening routine.
You can say, I go home around 5 p.m.
I have dinner with my family.
Or I do my homework or finish my work.
You can also talk about relaxing.
For example, I watch TV, I listen to music, or I use my phone.
Finally, you can talk about your night routine.
You can say, I go to bed at 10 p.m.
Or I read a book before I sleep.
Now let's give a full example with more detail.
What is your daily schedule?
I usually wake up at 6 a.m., brush my teeth, and take a shower.
What do you do after that?
I have breakfast with my family and then go to school by bus.
What time do you start school?
I start school at 7 a.m.
What do you do in the afternoon?
I have lunch at 12 p.m., then I continue my classes.
What do you do after school?
I go home, take a short rest, and do my homework.
What about the evening?
I have dinner with my family and sometimes watch TV.
And at night?
I relax a little and go to bed at 10 p.m.
That's a very clear and natural schedule.
Now let's help our listeners build their own answers.
You can use time expressions like in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening.
For example, in the morning I go to school.
In the afternoon, I study and do homework.
In the evening, I relax and spend time with my family.
You can also talk about frequency.
For example, I always wake up early.
Or I sometimes go out with my friends.
Or even, I rarely watch TV on weekdays.
These small details make your English sound more natural.
Now let's practice a short conversation.
What do you do in the morning?
I wake up early, take a shower, and have breakfast.
What do you do in the afternoon?
I study and attend classes.
What do you do in the evening?
I relax, do my homework, and spend time with my family.
That's great. Now let's go deeper and learn how to describe your schedule in a more detailed and natural way.
Yes, because in real conversations, people often ask follow-up questions and expect longer answers.
So, you need to explain your schedule clearly, step by step.
Let's start again with talking about time more clearly.
You can say, I wake up at 6 a.m. or I start work at 8:30 a.m.
You can also say, I finish school at 4 p.m.
Or I go to bed around 10 p.m.
You can also use around when the time is not exact.
For example, I wake up around 6 a.m. or I get home around 5 p.m.
Now let's talk about using sequence words to organize your ideas.
Yes, this is very important for speaking clearly.
You can use words like first, then, after that, next, and finally.
For example, first I wake up, then I take a shower. After that, I have breakfast and get ready for school.
That sounds very clear and well organized.
Now, let's talk about how often you do activities.
Yes, we can use frequency words.
For example, always, usually, often, sometimes, and never.
You can say, I always do my homework in the evening.
Or, I often go to bed early.
Or, I sometimes go out with my friends after school.
Or even, I never skip breakfast.
Now let's practice.
What do you do after school?
I usually go home and do my homework.
Do you relax after that?
Yes, I sometimes watch TV or listen to music.
Now, let's talk about adding more details to your schedule.
You can describe how you feel during different times of the day.
For example, I feel sleepy in the morning, or I feel energetic in the afternoon.
Or, I feel relaxed in the evening.
You can also talk about your favorite part of the day.
For example, my favorite time is the evening because I can relax.
Or, I like the morning because it is quiet and fresh.
Now let's practice a longer and more natural conversation.
What is your daily schedule like?
I usually wake up around 6:30 a.m. and get ready for school.
What do you do after that?
First, I take a shower, then I have breakfast with my family.
What time do you go to school?
I go to school at 7:30 a.m.
What do you do in the afternoon?
I have lunch at 12 p.m., then I continue my classes until 4 p.m.
What do you do after school?
I go home, take a short rest, and do my homework.
Do you have any free time?
Yes, I usually relax in the evening and sometimes go online or watch TV.
How do you feel about your schedule?
I feel a bit busy during the day, but I really enjoy my evenings.
What time do you go to bed?
I usually go to bed around 10:30 p.m.
That sounds like a very balanced and healthy schedule. Now let's continue and make your conversations about your schedule even more natural and detailed.
Yes, because in real life, people often want to know not just your routine, but also your feelings, preferences, and priorities.
Let's start with talking about your favorite parts of the day.
You can say, my favorite part of the day is the morning because it is quiet.
Or, I really enjoy the evening because I can relax after a busy day.
You can also explain why it is your favorite.
For example, I like the afternoon because I can meet my friends and talk with them.
Now, let's practice a conversation.
What is your favorite time of the day?
I really like the evening because I can relax and spend time with my family.
That sounds very nice.
Yes, it helps me feel calm after a busy day.
Now, let's talk about priorities in your schedule.
Sometimes people ask, what is the most important part of your day?
You can say, the most important part of my day is studying because it helps me learn new things.
Or, spending time with my family is the most important for me.
You can also combine priorities with time expressions.
For example, in the morning, the most important thing is my exercise and getting ready for school.
Now, let's practice.
What is the most important part of your day?
The most important part of my day is studying in the afternoon.
Why is it important?
Because I need to finish my lessons and prepare for exams.
That's a good answer.
Now, let's talk about activities that change every day.
Yes, because your schedule is not always the same.
You can say, some days I go to the library, other days I play sports.
Or, I sometimes have extra classes in the evening.
This makes your English sound more natural and realistic.
Let's practice.
Do you have the same schedule every day?
Not really. Some days I study at home and some days I go out with friends.
That sounds very balanced.
Now let's talk about unexpected changes in your schedule.
You can say, sometimes my schedule changes because of extra work or school events.
Or, I usually plan my day, but sometimes something comes up.
Let's practice a conversation.
Do you always follow your schedule?
I try to, but sometimes my schedule changes because of school activities.
What do you do when it changes?
I adjust my time and focus on important tasks first.
That's very organized.
Now let's talk about the busiest day in your week.
You can say, my busiest day is Wednesday because I have many classes and activities.
Or Friday is the busiest day for me because I have exams and homework.
Let's practice.
Which day is the busiest for you?
Wednesday is the busiest day because I have many lessons and club activities.
How do you manage everything?
I make a list and follow it step by step.
That's a very good way to stay organized.
Now let's practice one more long conversation about schedules.
Hi, how is your week going?
It's a bit busy, but I'm managing it well.
Which day is the busiest?
Wednesday is the busiest because I have school, homework, and sports practice.
Do you have any free time this week?
Yes, I have some free time in the evening on Thursday and Friday.
What are you planning to do during your free time?
I'm planning to relax, watch TV, and maybe meet my friends.
That sounds very nice.
Yes, balancing work and rest is very important in daily life.
Great. Now our listeners can talk about their schedule, favorite times, priorities, changes, and free time in a natural way. Now let's bring everything together and use full, natural conversations about your schedule in real life.
Yes, at this point, you can talk about your daily routine, busy times, free time, and even unexpected changes.
This will help you sound more fluent and confident in real conversations.
Let's start with a real-life situation at school.
Hi, how was your day today?
It was quite busy. I had classes from morning until afternoon.
What did you do after school?
I went home, took a short rest, and then did my homework.
Do you usually have that kind of schedule?
Yes, on weekdays, I usually follow the same routine. I wake up early, go to school, study, and then relax in the evening.
That sounds very organized. Do you ever feel tired?
Sometimes I feel tired in the afternoon, but I try to stay focused and drink water to stay active.
That's a good habit.
Now let's talk about free time.
What do you usually do when you are free?
In my free time, I like to relax at home, watch videos, or sometimes go out with my friends.
Do you have free time every day?
Not really. I usually have free time in the evening after finishing my homework.
What about weekends?
Weekends are more relaxed. I don't have school, so I can wake up later and enjoy my time.
That sounds nice.
Now, let's talk about planning your week.
Do you plan your schedule in advance?
Yes, I usually plan my week on Sunday. I write down my homework, exams, and activities.
Why is that important?
Because it helps me manage my time and not forget important tasks.
That's a very smart way to stay organized.
Now let's talk about a busy and stressful day.
What do you do on your busiest day?
My busiest day is Wednesday. I have many lessons, homework, and sometimes extra activities.
How do you handle it?
I take short breaks between tasks and try to finish the most important work first.
That's a good strategy.
Now let's talk about changes in your schedule again.
Do your plans always stay the same?
Not always. Sometimes teachers give extra homework or there are school events, so my schedule changes.
What do you do when that happens?
I adjust my plan and try to finish everything step by step.
That shows good time management.
Now let's do one final long, real conversation.
How is your life during the week?
It's busy but balanced. I study in the morning and afternoon, and I rest in the evening.
What do you do to relax?
I listen to music, watch videos, or spend time with my family.
Do you feel your schedule is good for you?
Yes, I think it helps me stay disciplined and organized.
What would you like to change in your schedule?
I would like to have more free time for hobbies and friends.
That sounds like a good goal.
Now let's give our final message to the listeners.
If you want to improve your English, try talking about your daily schedule every day.
Use simple words first, then slowly add more details, like time, feelings, and activities.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just keep practicing.
The more you practice, the more natural your English will become.
Thank you so much for listening to the English Learner Podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more English practice.
We will see you in the next lesson.